Hi, everyone. As we start our course, I'm going to spend a few minutes kind of walking you through the course so you can see the structure of it, things like deadlines, talk a little bit about the discussion forums, the journals that you'll use to turn in assignments, the instructional web pages, and so on and so forth. So I've taught this course for several years now online, and I found that by doing this, it really kind of helps people make sense of the layout before they even start. So the very first thing you're always going to encounter on this website, on this Blackboard site, is the announcements page. By default, Blackboard puts up this home page, but they don't really populate it with any kind of data. So for the most part, it's really useless. So I just delete that and I just show these announcements. And I put the announcements in here in reverse chronological order. So the newest announcements will always be at the top. Older announcements will be at the bottom. And I leave them up all summer. So if you want to go back in and check on something, it's always going to be there for you. I have for the modules, so you'll know when things are due, I have put a due date with the module link itself. So May 24th, 28th, 31st, so on and so forth. I also put in a course calendar, and I'll click on this real quick. That will list all of the due dates. Over time, though, I have found that students just like a simple course schedule, which is really just kind of a rundown on when the due dates are and kind of a little bit about each module so they have a sense of what they are. So use either of these. Which of those three methods works for you is fine with me. I do want to point out that the due dates on these, so Wednesday, May 22nd, the due date really is midnight of May 22nd, and that's Central Standard Time. So if you are on the East Coast or West Coast, please adjust your times accordingly, right? For the most part, I'm not really going to be that big of a stickler if you turn in at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't really care. I'm not going to be up at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning anyway. So if you're turning it in on 1 a.m. on May 23rd, it's not going to be that big of a deal to me. The problem you sometimes run into is that the quizzes are timed to shut off at a particular time. So that sometimes gets to be a little bit problematic. So I do also want to mention, so we're talking about quizzes, if you run into a problem where you're taking a quiz and your computer crashes or the internet goes down or whatever have you, it will time you out of the quiz. If that happens, just let me know and I'll reset it for you. It's not that big of a deal. All right, so that's the announcements, the calendar, the course schedule. Like I said, everything is set up in these modules, and before the first day of class, I will turn all these modules on except for the final exam. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But all of these modules will be there for you so you can kind of work through them. I do put the due dates on there just to kind of keep people moving forward. One of the very first times I taught this class many years ago, I didn't put the due dates up, and what I found, I thought I'd just let people kind of work through it. But what happened is people then started to really kind of get behind. When most of the class was on like module 8, I still had some that were on 1, 2, or 3. And the problem is that if you get too far behind, it gets harder and harder to get caught up, right? Because you got a lot of things going on this summer, and you may be on trips and that sort of thing. And I get that. That's fine. This course is kind of designed for that flexibility in mind. But if you get too far behind, then it really gets harder and harder to get caught up. If you do run into a problem, let's say module 2 is due on May 31st, but the first couple of days before that, or maybe that day at work, they ask you to work an extra shift or something. If you just let me know a little bit in advance if you can. Just work with me, tell me what's going on, and I'm flexible on the deadlines. Like I said, I'm not going to be that big of a stickler that, if it's not there at exactly midnight on that day, then, I'm not going to say, okay, you get a 0 on that. I'll work with you a little bit on that. If you know you're going to be gone for an extended period of time, like a week or 10 days or something like that, then if you would shoot me an email beforehand, just so I know. Sometimes people kind of disappear from the class. I'm not really sure what's going on. And my emails to them kind of go unanswered. So if you would just let me know in advance, and again, I'll work with you on deadlines, quizzes, that sort of thing. Like I said, this class is really designed to be a good summer class in terms of being flexible enough to give people the ability to do internships or work or vacations or whatnot have you, and still get an enjoyable class experience. So let's look at one of the modules. Module 1, most of the modules are about the same, right? I have them broken down into sections. So in this case, 1.1 is kind of an overview of what the module is and what you'll have to do, kind of a step-by-step. Module 1.2, in this case, is the instructional webpage. Now, I've set several of these up because I want to show video clips. Blackboard does not like to play well with video clips, either importing to YouTube or especially if you have your own video clips. It just does not like to work well with that. I can't, some of the video clips I show are snippets that I've gotten out of movies, and unfortunately I can't put those on YouTube because YouTube flags them immediately as being copyrighted material and just deletes them. So I've set up my own kind of website for this class. It is password protected, so just use this username and this password, and you'll be able to get in. So just put that in there, and you'll get into the site. Each of these modules then, or each of these instructional web pages then are designed to kind of give a little bit more explanation or a little bit more insight into the concept we're studying. It's really kind of broken down by chapters. So years ago when I first started this class, it was a little bit more difficult to get films through streaming services. But today, gosh, there's so many. Most of you probably already have something that you can use, but use whatever service you want to get films. I do ask that you not watch them on television because they're really broken up with a lot of commercials. In some cases, you'll need to pause a video and play it again, or maybe go back and look at it. So try to rent a film or a video of some type so that you can use for the course. As you read down through these, there's different elements that you can, like this has just kind of an overview of the module. In some of them, there will be a short audio segment.
Our course textbook, Film Art.
So pretty self-explanatory there, different types of announcements related to it. A little bit of a discussion on why do we even study the film cinema? What is it about films that we study? And I've had a lot of people say they really enjoyed this class because they get kind of an insight into film construction. Films are constructed pieces of artwork, really. Everything in a film is there for a purpose. A very good film, for example, you'll be able to explain almost everything that appeared in the film, as a motif or a recurring element or something like that, or a plot point. In a way, it kind of ruins your ability to watch films because you'll see all the stuff that other people won't see. So it really does make the process of watching films, I think, even better because you start to really kind of understand how they're constructed and why several things happen throughout the film. So I do use some of these YouTube videos, so you can watch those. Here's a video clip that I put up this is from A Shadow of a Doubt, Alfred Hitchcock. So you can watch those. All of these then tie back into certain elements of the module that we're going through. So it helps explain something a little bit more in depth. You can read a little bit about it, you can see it. So hopefully you'll be able to connect the two together just a little bit better. And then once you're done with these, you can of course close them out and go back to the Blackboard site, and down the page you go. You do need to buy a textbook for this. I use an older textbook, so the cost of it is substantially less than brand new versions. But I do realize that sometimes it does take a while to get those books shipped to you. So I am able to scan and put up about the first 3 chapters. I really can't go beyond that because federal copyright law prohibits the substantial use of a publication. So 4 chapters would kind of fall into that category, and we get into a little bit of legal issues there. So I'll put up the first 3 or so, and then after that, it's kind of on your own. So I do have chapter worksheets. The chapter worksheets are just reviews. As you read through the reading assignment, you can fill these out. Now, you do not need to turn these in. I don't expect you to turn these in to me. These are purely for your use. The questions for the quiz and the final exam will be taken from these. So if you fill these out as you go through, when you get to the final exam or the quiz, you'll have all the answers. So it will make those assessment elements really a lot easier, right? You don't have to go back and spend hours and hours and hours going through the textbook. You're going to do all that up front. So just fill these out and keep them for yourself, kind of file them away, and then use them accordingly. Like I said, you don't have to turn them into me, so you don't have to ship them or email them or anything like that. I do provide a PDF or a document, a Microsoft Word file. Some people like to download the Word file and then fill it out as they go in, and just makes it a little bit more organized. Several of our modules will have discussion forums, and discussion forums, you probably have done these before. The discussion forums are just simple questions about various things. In one of the first modules, I'm going to ask you to describe your favorite film. And really, there's no wrong answer here, right? Your favorite film is your favorite film, and nobody can take that away from you. So limit it to 1 or 2, but just talk about, this is my favorite film, and then why? What is it about that film that really speaks to you, that really connects with you? It could be a lot of different kinds of things. Now, a discussion forum is a public communication. So anything you put in the discussion forum will be seen by everybody in the class. As you go through and fill out some of the assignments for the class, you'll put those into a journal. And a journal is a private communication between you and the instructor. Only you and the instructor, myself, will see what you write here. So you'll click on this and you'll create a journal entry and you'll write your response to the assignment in there, or you can word process it and attach it as a file. That's fine too. Whatever your preference is works for me. But keep in mind that these are private communications. It's only you and I. I do respond back to these. I'll write comments in them. Sometimes a lot of comments, sometimes maybe a sentence or two. It really just kind of depends. And I'll put the grades in here, so you'll know at all times where your grade is for this class. So there's no surprise at the end. You were expecting one grade and got something else. So you'll know kind of where you're at as you go through. So, all right, go back to the modules real quick. The last thing is just the quiz, and I've already talked a little bit about that. The quizzes come from these discussion or these module worksheets, so fill them out as you go through, and you shouldn't have really any trouble at all keeping pace and doing well in the course. So for the most part, that's the class. That's pretty much, I think, everything you need to know in terms of the structure of the class, how to find things. Like I said, I'll make all this stuff available for you by the start of class. The final exam, I turn that on about a week before the final is over, or before the class is over. Most people turn in the final exam before the due date, even because they can download it. And again, if you fill out those worksheets, then you'll have everything you need to get through the class. All of our communication for the class will come through either these announcement posts here or through emails. And I do ask that you do read through those just to make sure that you don't miss something or miss a deadline or an important announcement or something like that. But if at any time you have questions, in this class, there is no dumb question, right? The only dumb question is the one you don't ask, because believe me, if you have a question, somebody else in this class has the exact same question. Oftentimes, I will take those questions and post them back as an announcement. I don't say who it came from. I just simply say, hey, here's something you might be thinking about, and then I'll put them up here. So that really kind of helps a lot of your classmates too. So if you have a question, just post, send me an email, and I'll be happy to answer. One last thing, as far as email communication, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, I'm pretty much on it, right? I'll be responding as quickly as I can. On the weekends and after hours, I will respond, but maybe a little bit slower, right? So if you're up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, where a lot of students are doing this class, and you send me an email, don't expect a response until the next morning, because I'm not up at 2 or 3 in the morning. And then on the weekends, we all like downtime. So if it's really an emergency, I'll respond as quickly as I can. If it's not, if it's just a general question, I may put it off till Monday. So I do try to keep that communication going so things don't stack up. But I will communicate back to you. If I don't for some reason, shoot me another email, because sometimes things do get lost in the email. And that's sometimes the hardest part of this course for me, is to keep track of all the email. Okay. So I hope you enjoy the class. It's a fun class. You get to watch films, so really, how bad can it be?